Hey guys, welcome to our podcast where it has to be said. My name is Elvis.
And I'm Denise.
Babe, let's talk.
Yes. So we did skip last week. I needed the break. I felt like I needed a little reset. I was giving conferences 2 Thursdays in a row to another church, and then Elvis and I last week had to prepare because we had our first marriage retreat of the year at church, and we had to lead like the conferences and the games. So we needed the break to kind of focus. But I think it was good. I think we
The conference was great.
the
Yeah,
process.
we got a very good feedback.
Yeah.
Now how did we get there? It was very hard. There was a lot of back and forth. I was good. I was ready to go. We had the message, but the person next to me had a lot of questions, and I think also you were very overwhelmed with work and with everything that was going
Yeah.
on. Um, but I did tell you, I vocalized a lot of times. I like, babe, like you're overthinking everything we're doing. You're
Yeah.
overthinking the podcast. You're overthinking the message we got to give in church. And it's like, I'm like, what is she thinking? Like, does she realize that I want to make sure I'm doing everything correct as well? It's not like I want to just I'm going to get the bare minimal.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I'm like, what is she thinking?
Yeah. I think that part of us skipping out last week too was also I was causing some dismotivation to Elvis because I get very, I don't know what to say, rigid or not strict, but I'm like very like, no, I have to read information. I have to get information. I can't just talk to just talk. Like I'm very like, there has to be structure. I need to know what's happening. Um,
Which is understandable, but I think at least with this podcast,
yeah,
right? The main reason why we did it was because we wanted to tell people our journey, right? Our
mm-hmm,
experiences, our history in the making, because even what we're living now, right?
yeah,
I feel like if we got to do so much research, we're really not talking about what we had lived in the past or
yeah,
what we're living now, right? Because the whole point of the podcast or what we're talking about is saying our history. And I don't need to look for a book. I don't need to do
mm-hmm,
research something I lived, right?
yeah,
And we also want to get people that do have amazing stories, like we
mm-hmm,
did in another episode, and my sister and other people that we are gonna bring in. They don't have to get information of something they already lived.
yeah.
And what better way or what better platform than the camera and the
Yeah.
mic?
I mean, it doesn't mean we're still not going to bring information, but it means that I'm willing to take a step back because I've been overdoing it. And even like for preparing for the conference, it was like we had what we were going to talk about. We're talking about the five love languages, and we were coming up with trying to get different couple activities to do that reflect each love language, which turned out great. Everyone had a good time,
I
and
think we even had a great
we
time.
had a great time. We're still getting feedback even from today from some couples. So it kind of hit me after it finished, and I'm like, sometimes simple goes a long way, and simple, is enough, right? I don't have to be extravagant. I don't have to be anything more than myself.
Hmm.
And I think I'm still learning that. Doesn't mean there hasn't been any hurdles to get here to literally today, but I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect, and I have to be, I think, more gracious to myself so that I can
And enjoy the process.
yes.
Enjoy like
Thank
I
God for Elvis because
yeah,
he's just so
I think we overcomplicate everything
yeah.
that happens. For example, it's very quiet here, right? At any particular moment, my daughter could start screaming. Okay, we'll include it in the video. What can we do? Welcome to our home,
Yeah.
right? We can't. Oh, let's start from the very beginning again. It's almost like, listen, this is who we are.
Yeah.
This is our experience. This is the information we have to give. If you could take anything from this, is learn from our mistakes, right?
Mhm.
And
Or learn knowing that you're gonna make mistakes. Mistakes are gonna
absolutely.
happen, right? You might not make the same mistakes we make, but we're all gonna make
It's
mistakes.
not like we have it all figured it out.
Yeah.
No, we haven't. But we do know that obviously we're here thanks to God, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I think everything we have done to this point is like, Father, I may not have all the answers to life. I may not have all the answers to marriage, to parenthood, to motherhood. Um, but I put my life in your hands,
Yep.
right? Mold me, change me, remove anything you need to remove, right? Let it be less of myself and more of you, right? Because we want to reflect what we have, and what we have is God.
Yeah. Yep. And his love. And I think that we realized like since yesterday our TikTok has been getting like a lot of responses in one of our videos, and it just comes down to love.
Yeah.
People want to be loved, want to feel loved, want to feel love, experience love. They just want love. And it's crazy because the video we shared is the one of Elvis saying like how he didn't want to lose me when we spoke about what in the episode why we didn't divorce. And both guys and women are men and women are all expressing either they want to love someone correctly or they want to be loved in that way, right? And again, our message is not for you to love the way Elvis and I love each other necessarily, because every relationship is different,
Hmm.
but to aspire to be with someone who loves you, who respects you, who's willing to make the changes.
Hmm.
And so let's talk a little bit about what is love. What to you is an example of love?
You tell me what's love. What do you think love is?
No, you had a great synopsis of love earlier.
Oh yeah, I think our best conversations is when we have the camera
Every time
off.
every time the camera's off, we like go deep.
Yeah, well, love could be pointed out in so many different ways, but I think one of the most emotional moments, or one of the things that get me emotional, even just talking about it now, and when we had our conversation, was my mother. Right, my
Mm-hmm.
mother. For those who don't know, she passed away of cancer, and every time I talk about my mother, I'm like, man, like I love her so much that I actually had a physical pain. Right, I had pain in my heart. Still now, when I talk about it, it's almost like, a few years later, but I'm always gonna love my mother, man. My
Yeah.
mother's my mother. She's not here. She's in a better place, and there's nobody that could take that place of that love of just having her,
Yeah.
right? And I could get emotional.
Now I'm crying.
No, I could get emotional, and it's all right because I don't
Yeah.
I don't mind crying. For whoever doesn't know me, I don't mind crying, right? But my mother, man, like that love it's always gonna be there,
Yeah.
right? And God is love, right? Obviously, God is love, and I figured that out in my life. And I think after I figured that out, and my mother passed away, I kind of figured like, man, I truly loved my mother, and I still do. Um, and another point is my daughters. All right, I love you, babe. By the way,
Yeah, I know.
um, my daughters. I was in the backyard today with my daughter, my youngest, my 3 year old, and she was like, "Look at me, dad," and she's like, "Dad, could you be my best friend?" And she told me that, and I'm like, I'll do anything for you, right? Because it's like that love that I want to be around you always, right? And there's no worries, there's no problems, there's no stress. Nothing else matters when I'm in that emotional state of love, right? And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you said earlier, there's so many of us looking for love. A lot of us are looking for love in the wrong places,
Yeah.
right? And that's why we get discouraged and we get rebellious, not realize that number one, God is love. And if you have if you have families, if you have a wife, if you have a husband, if you have kids, listen, they are love. They represent love in your life. Sometimes we don't value it as much until we lose it,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's why when I talk about my mother, not because I didn't enjoy her, because mommy was mommy and I was her favorite. And all my sisters know it, by the way. But man, I love her so, so much. And that for me is love.
I think it's beautiful when you have a positive example of love in
Mm.
people, right? Because it's not just a feeling. It's actions, it's words, it's a you know it's a person. It can be a person. Love, and like hearing you talking about your mom, it's beautiful that even till this day you can still feel the intensity of her love, right? Like,
It's sometimes it's hard for me to tell
yeah,
my
no,
mother. My mother's my
yeah,
mother. Sometimes we undervalue the importance that the love is in your life, right?
hmm
I remember that last day where we went to the graveyard and whatnot. My pastor was with me, and that's how I realized my pastor loved my mother. I remember she was on her knees with me, and she was like, God, tearing. She was tearing. My pastor's tough, pastor's tough,
hmm
and she said, "This is hard. I need help. Help us be strong." And you realize how they were in family,
hmm
but her love for her was so deep. She was in pain, and sometimes I don't know, love is beautiful. Love is amazing, right? Because this is not the conversations we usually have on a daily basis, right?
yeah,
You're with somebody, but you don't talk about how much you really love that person. And I think we get lost in translation, not really reflecting what love is. Like just sitting down next to you, babe, and you're
hmm
saying, babe, like, I'm happy I have you next to me.
yeah,
Like I really want to stick with you for the rest of my life, right? And I want to each day of my life be able to show you expression of love.
yeah. And I think it's that I love him too. I'm more, we're gonna little by little you'll get to know us more. He's more
Lovable. Lovable.
affectionate. He's more affectionate, and I'm, very reserved. But I
But not with everybody.
no,
That's my
with
whole
me,
thing.
he's a mush.
But for everybody else that doesn't really know me, thinks I'm very tough or that
Or
sees
people
me
that know
over.
you, I think even people that know you don't appreciate the man you are,
Hmm.
right? And I think sometimes we get so caught up and focused on the negatives or the mistakes or the imperfections of people that it blocks us from being able to see beyond that and see the person that
Hmm.
is within, right? Elvis, outwardly can appear a little bit more tough and kind of like, you've heard him before say, oh, like let it slide like butter, right? But when you get to know him, and I'm not saying it just because he's my husband, but when you get to know him underneath that layer, right? That's like the show White Lotus when she talks about like everyone has these layers like an
Yeah, yeah,
onion.
yeah.
Once you get under those surface layers, like you see that he genuinely cares for people, right? But what happens is you may not be able to get to experience that side of him if you don't allow him to, right? Because I can only go as far with you, romantically, friendship wise, as a family member, and in any aspect, right? With you, as far as I allow myself, right? Because if I'm stuck on all the negatives, all the things you lack and don't do, then I'm never gonna get to enjoy you and really flourish and experience that love. And that's in any relationship, right? There's probably, I'm sure, for some, you may not have had the best relationship with your mother for a bunch of reasons, right?
And if you haven't, do whatever. If she's alive or
Mm-hmm.
even your father, forgive him, forgive her,
Yeah.
and try to figure out a way to rebuild that
Yeah.
relationship one way or another. It's gonna be needed.
That's where,
Don't
yep.
wait. Don't wait until he or she passes away to say, "Man, I wish I could have had that moment with her or him." Man, put your pride to the side. I'm not saying he didn't do it right or she didn't do it
Mm-hmm.
right because your parents probably did fail you. They were probably horrible parents.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter. Forgive them. They're your parents. We can't dictate who our parents are, right? All we do and all we can do is be merciful and wish that everybody around us could have that same mercy for us too.
Yep. And I think that's where I was going, where it's kind of like you have to really measure, is it worth no longer having this relationship? If this person, God forbid, died tomorrow, am I going to be content with the last thing I said to this person? Am I going to be content with opening my phone and seeing the last time I text messaged this person? How long ago was that? How long ago was that I gave them a phone call, right? Like it's it's that deep, because really like as cliche as this may sound, life is short, right? And we sever sometimes relationships over sometimes some minor things. There are things that are big. There are things that are important that need to be resolved, right? There are things that may compromise safety and your well-being mentally, emotionally, physically. I'm not taking away from that, and that's other things. That's like a topic we can talk about on a different podcast. But you got to think: is it worth no longer speaking to this person? If God forbid, like my brothers died, will I be content? And I'm speaking about my brothers. Like, would I be content? Oh my God, why am I crying? With the love that I gave them, right? Like, I understand that we have different dynamics in our sibling relationship, but I would do anything for my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if I didn't grow up with them, those are my brothers and I would do anything for them. So it's making sure that I'm okay with how I interact with people in this world, because if they're no longer here, I don't want to live with guilt that I should have done better. I want to do the best that I can. Like with my grandmother, I take advantage now and I give her all the love and I try to be respectful and all that, and not think about, oh, she was so strict or XYZ, blah, blah, blah. But when I was a child, but love her for who she is now, and how much she means to me, because God forbid she's not here. I want to be able to know that, or even God forbid I'm not here, that she may be satisfied with, like, wow, Denise gave me so much love and so much respect, um, while she was alive. I think that this took like a whole turn of events, but it is so important to express your love to the people around you,
Mm-hmm.
and look past the negatives, right? Me and Elvis went through a lot in our relationship, but a decision had to be made where we both had to look past the mistakes, the things we've done to get to where we are now. And I'll give you a perfect example. Like me and my father do not have a relationship, right? And speak like tying to what Elvis was saying, God forbid something happened to him, I wouldn't feel bad, because I feel that in my teenage years, I tried a lot to make that effort. I remember my grandmother telling me right before I turned 16, she said, oh, Denis, tienes que buscarlo, blah, blah, blah. You got to look for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's your father. You're a teenager now. Like kind of basically giving me some responsibility and trying to outreach. And I did. He came to the Sweet 16. But then after that, there was no follow through, right? And then that's a year later, I ended up finding out I was pregnant, and I was like, you know what? Let me call and tell him. But someone from the church had already got ahead, and nothing. He was disappointed. He didn't really have anything positive to say. He was like, "Oh, good luck." I don't know if you remember that or like that. And he was like, just
Yeah,
like, "Good luck,"
I
and
remember.
it was like dismissive. So I was like, "All right, God, I did what I could as a person, as a daughter, and that's it." But I worked in my heart, right? I allowed God to teach me how to love him, God, be him being God as my heavenly father, and forgive my earthly father for the times that he may have failed, and remember the times that he did try to have a relationship, because I did have I have memories of him as a child. But that the point is, my point is that your heart no longer have resentment towards that person, that you can speak about that person without having hate, or having those negative stirred up feelings in there, right? So sometimes there's going to be relationships that you may not be able to repair, because it takes two. Remember, it takes work and it takes two.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But if you go, and sorry for
yeah,
interrupting, but if you go back to what you were saying about your father, right? And I think that's the most valuable thing that out of this whole conversation or what we could have. When you show love to somebody, whether it be a friend, a relative, or whatnot, you kind of do it without expecting anything in
Mm-hmm.
return, right? Because if anything, you're doing something better to yourself. You're healing yourself, right? Because you're saying, listen, forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you didn't do anything, you're
Yep.
saying, forgive me. You're being the bigger person and showing, forgive me. And one thing that you pointed out was, if he was to pass, God forbid, you wouldn't feel like any bad way because you already did your part.
Mm-hmm.
So if we was to show love like that without expecting anything and something does happen, you're not going to have any guilt because you put in your part. But 9 out of 10, a lot of times, when you go for this person and show them the love that you really have, they're going to receive you with
Yep.
open arms.
I mean, those are Elvis
Why?
statistics, but
No, no. And that's just me being dramatic. Why? Because a lot of times people get intimidated of who you are,
yeah.
right? Look at me. Most people think like, this dude is not gonna want to talk to me. He always looks upset. But when you know me, you know that, listen, we're both gonna cry together. We're both gonna hug together. We're both gonna laugh together. And
Mm-hmm.
we're just gonna make it happen from here on, right? Regardless of the mistakes you made,
Yeah.
we're gonna leave that to the past and let's just move on from today on.
Yeah. And I think that it's crazy because we were
Yeah,
this
we
this
went, we
went
went, we went.
this
So.
went left, right, left. But I think it's just the point is love is so important. Expressing love is so important. Telling the people around you that you love them is so important. And sometimes we get so caught up, right? You know, social media portrays a way of love, right?
A way of everything.
A way of everything. Social media is big now, and you know, it's like a conflicting message to me because I feel like you the culture is now like, immediately you cancel somebody when you don't like what they do or you disagree with them. You cancel them, you cut them off, even if it's family, right? Blood doesn't make relatives or blah blah blah, like like stuff that's the
That
message
bothers me.
being transpired, right? And I get it. I'm not negating that there's situations where family is toxic, but most of the time, a lot of family conflicts are things that can't be restored and resolved,
Yep.
right? You know, I'm taking away, right, physical abuse, sexual abuse, things like that happen in the family that I'm not saying cannot be restored because I've seen restoration happen in
Absolutely.
that,
Yeah.
but that takes a whole set of other skills and work to be able to overcome. But minor disagreements and things of that you didn't like, that maybe okay, maybe this person was too strict growing up or stuff like that, those things should not pull you away from trying to cultivate a relationship, right? The message now is quickly like, oh, because I disagree with you, okay, we can break up, we're done, I don't need this in my life, right?
Where's love in all of
And
that?
it's like, so then where is the love that is patient, the love that is kind, right? I'm not talking about tolerating abuse. I'm not talking about, that's
Yeah.
separate. But I'm saying, where's the love where we're patient, where we're kind, right? Where we're not envious, where we're not self-seeking, right? Because that's where it says in First Corinthians 13, it's like that love is missing. And I think that part of the podcast now, the most important is to cultivate that love again,
Yep. Yep.
right? The contrast of what the world is saying about love, or cut this off. I need to set boundaries. I need to set limits. I need I don't need this in my life. You got to remove everything that's toxic. But sometimes we have to also be able to, because no one talks about it, analyze ourselves.
Yeah.
Because
I would say a majority of the time
right,
is
because
ourselves.
no one ever wants to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah.
No one wants to ever admit that they overreacted or responded in a
Or
harshful
you made a
way,
mistake.
or that you made a
You made a
mistake.
mistake. We're human. We're all gonna make mistakes. It's like we're gonna be perfect. No, I'm gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. The point is, you can't just take somebody completely out of your life just because a mistake was done, right? And again, we're not going to the things drastic, but look at every example of siblings, right? Sometimes siblings don't get along, but they have friends that are like siblings. And I don't agree with that, because if you have your sibling alive, Try to build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Try to learn their love language to see what is it that works for them. Listen, this guy probably doesn't like spending time. This guy probably likes, or this female likes gifts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Figure out what is it that works for them and build a relationship off of that.
Yeah. And I think that, everything takes work. Everything takes work. Building relationships, restoring relationships takes work. But if you have love, the true experience of love, I feel like you have everything.
Yeah.
You can go through hardships, you can go through experiences in life, but love, man, is key. Love is key of true love, of having that genuine person out there, right? Whether it be and exerting that example, because Elvis spoke earlier about how much he felt his mom's love and how that love still lives in him. So it doesn't cease, right? Even if that person is no longer here, that feeling, those memories, those moments, you still carry them with you. What happened?
No, I said just thinking about my mother. That's all.
Yeah. I think love is everything we need.
I agree.
And I hope that,
And I guess we could talk about everything that we had for another time.
yeah. Love is everything you need. And I hope that you feel loved, and I hope that you feel encouraged to work on how you show love, how you give love, how you've received love, and how you experience love.
Amen.
Amen.
Get all spiritual now.
Oh my goodness. So thank you guys for joining. It has to be said.
And it was said. Take care, guys.